Back in the last part, I talked about Sonic Generations. I brought up that this was one of the few modern Sonic games that was universally liked, dissimilar to the likes of Sonic Heroes and Sonic 06, which are panned across the board. Well, Sonic Generations wasn't the only Sonic game in recent years that was universally liked. Before that, we had the Nintendo exclusive game, Sonic Colors. Released in 2010 on both the Wii and the DS respectively, I can safely say that, before you say anything, no, Colors is not misspelled here. In both UK and Australia, in our written dialect, Colors has a U in addition to the O after the L, so this is not a misspelling, and literally that's what it says on both the cover of my edition of the game and on the title screen. So with that out of the way, Sonic Colors was amazing for me in so many ways. Despite playing both the DS and the Wii edition of the game, I'm only including the Wii version as it's the version I prefer overall. The DS version isn't bad, but it's really not on the level of the Wii edition. Bloody hell, I have to stop going on tangents. First and foremost, this game looks drop dead amazing. Just like Metroid Other M, Sonic Colors really pushes the limitations of what the Wii graphics are capable of doing, and the result is amazing. There's so much vibrant color, so much detail, and graphically looks almost on par with the PS3 360 Sonic games. All this graphical finesse is wholly evident in all the levels. I mean, just take a look at some of these. All the levels here are fantastic to play through, visually clearly, but also gameplay wise as well, as to be expected from a video game. Now, a notable thing about Sonic Colors is that although it is considered one of the gems of the modern Sonic era, it detracts quite a lot from the series' conventions. By this, I mean that Sonic Colors doesn't have as much emphasis on speed, more on platforming and exploring levels. Rankings given does include getting to the end as fast as possible as a factor, but it's on the same level as Ring Collection, enemies defeated, secrets collected, and wisps used. You are encouraged to take your time and really explore each stage, take in the level design, the grandeur of the visuals, and the great soundtrack. And I really like this style of gameplay. It has the option for speed implied in the Sonic series, which is used in many sections of the game, but it also makes use of the more centralized platforming elements which are usually absent in the modern Sonic games. A bit of the usual with a splash of individuality. The levels themselves are truly great levels to play through. Tropical Resort is a simple and fun introductive level, Sweet Mountain is probably the weakest but still a bit of fun and is a visual joy, Starlight Carnival is a freaking experience for your eyes with some great speed segments, Planet Wisp is a beautiful blend of elegant nature and harsh metallic fixtures in both gameplay and visuals, Aquarium Park, fucking hell, a good water level! Asteroid Coaster is a hectic and intense level, and Terminal Velocity is a short but exciting final set of levels. In terms of the introduction of Wisp powers, I was skeptical at the beginning, thinking that they were going to be gimmicks. But really, they are very well integrated into the game, the Wisp contributing to the platforming elements more than the speed-based elements, major examples of those being the Drill, Rocket, Hover, and Spike Wisps. The Wisp integration unfortunately in Sonic Lost World was not so great, but Lost World is still a good game. God damn it, brain! You and your tangents! What I'm trying to say is, Sonic Colors is a freaking amazing game. Great design choices, fantastic visuals, a memorable and well-composed soundtrack, and a frankly well-written and comedic script. So yeah, good on you Sonic team, an unexpectedly fantastic game. Hey everyone, tell me if you recognize this. Time to talk about my second favourite of the Metroid Prime series, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. With this bit of knowledge, my favourite Prime game is fairly obvious, but that's a topic for later. Like all three Prime games, it has the fantastic gameplay, deep immersive atmosphere, great presentation and design you would expect from this godlike trilogy of gaming prominence. I really think a lot of what I can do is really just talk about what Corruption did differently. The first two Prime games were initially on the GameCube and then ported to the Wii in the Trilogy Collection, the one I have played. The controls are great, but this was taken from a game with your typical hardcore gamer controller to one with the waggle sticks, and as such their controls were adapted. The difference with Corruption is that it was built from the start to work with the Wii's control scheme, and as such makes more use of it in aspects such as operating mechanisms, although it does feel a little special at times.
Okay, I take hold of this thing, I lift it up, I move it all the way to the right, and I put it down. Yay!
I am so sorry. Anyway, there's more changes than just that. I guess for one, your grapple beam gets a number of upgrades, being able to rip off sections of walls and shields off enemies, and even electrocute enemies and sap their energy. Additionally, I really like how your ship has more involvement in the game rather than just being a save and restoration hub. With Corruption taking place on numerous planets instead of just one, your ship is used to transport between them, and inside your ship there are plenty of doodads to mess with, most of them doing nothing, mind you, even letting you find messages from Nintendo themselves. On top of that, your ship can also utilize its own grapple beam to move and transport large necessary objects, and even has the capabilities to fire missiles at targets. But I suppose the most intriguing aspect of gameplay added in Corruption is Hyper Mode. By giving up an entire energy tank's worth of health with each use, you can enter Hyper Mode, where your attacks can rip enemies new assholes and make you invulnerable for a short period of time. This feature is implemented so extensively into the gameplay, as enemies can also enter Hyper Mode, and there are some enemies that can only be beaten by entering Hyper Mode. A thing that Corruption does differently in comparison to the others is having other characters being present throughout your journey, whether it be Galactic Federation officers, the Aurora unit, and the best of them, the 3 bounty hunters hired by the Federation in addition to Samus: Gore, Gundrada, and of course, Rundus. You guys know how much I love Rundus. Frickin' my intro music for the past 3 years has been his battle theme, and his battle theme has been playing this entire entry. He is an amazing badass, he is both noble and honorable, saving Samus on more than one occasion. His battle is my favorite out of the entire trilogy, and he even ends his own life to spare Samus the guilt of killing him. Easily my favorite character in the Metroid series. When it comes to my personal experience playing Prime 3, there were so many high points for me and so many memorable moments. I loved going to different planets, each one feeling wholly different and with great areas to explore. I found collecting the energy cells a lot less of a bother than collecting the Chozo artifacts or the Dark Aether temple keys, and while I usually don't like creepy and scary stuff in games, I felt that GFS Valhalla was really effective, and I did find myself creeped out, but in a good way. In the end, Corruption is an amazing conclusion to the trilogy. All the new additions work so well with the standard design of the previous games, and overall, it's just one of the greatest games on the Wii. I mean, I enjoyed Prime 3 so much on my first playthrough that I went out of my way to get 100% completion. Something I've never done in any other Metroid game. That really is saying something. I wonder whether or not Logan's gonna kill me for this. When people think about the best Mario game on the DS, a lot of people think New Super Mario Bros., Super Mario 64 DS, or Mario Kart DS. But for me, the greatest Mario game on the DS is none other than Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. If you guys have any knowledge of my mate Logan, Fawful's minion, you would have at least heard of this game, because this game, it's just plain awesome. I guess a reason that I love the Mario and Luigi series is that each of them has something that makes each of them different in terms of gameplay. Partisan Time, which I have talked about before, had the Mario brothers working together with their infant selves, which in turn led to a lot of new gameplay twists, and Bowser's Inside Story has you being able to take control of the King of the Koopas himself, Bowser. Funny enough, the title of the game is very fitting, as despite this being a Mario and Luigi game, this really is Bowser's story. You'll end up playing as Bowser for the majority of the game, him differing from the Mario Brothers in having a ridiculous attack and defense stat, and the cost of a really low speed stat and only having one attack per turn, and being able to utilize its fire breath and huge strength in the overworld to allow exploration. Of course, on top of that you have the role of the Mario Brothers, who explore the insides of Bowser's body, augmenting his abilities from the inside and helping Bowser in their mutual goal of stopping the old yet new threat to the Mushroom Kingdom. This guy. This little guy right here. You might not know who he is, but if you don't know you'd be stupid, because he's the Master of Fury, pardon me, Master of Chortles, Lord Fawful. The fan-favourite sidekick to the sorcerer Cackletta takes to the stage in his main villainous role that practically no one has ever been able to forget. So many kick-ass moments of pure villainy and great comedy that we love so much. In terms of presentation, there's really nothing to fault. The pixel art is spectacularly well done, having great amount of detail and a very well designed and fleshed out art style. Everything is really well designed and has plenty of charm, energy, and life to keep pretty much everyone interested. For the music, there are so many memorable tracks, like the normal boss theme, the final boss theme, Deep Castle, and, strangely, one of my favorites, the minigame music. I don't know why, it just manages to stick with me. The soundtrack has all these fantastic pieces, but the rest of the music is high standard as well. There really is no piece of music I don't like in this game. And of course, like every Mario and Luigi game, the comedy is fantastic. You of course have Lord Fawful himself pulling some great lines, but you also have Bowser just being a lovable asshole, Luigi with his usual clumsiness and cowardice, and so many more great characters that really get a laugh out of the player. I said earlier that I was unsure whether or not Logan was gonna kill me, because there are some things in Bowser's inside story that I have to nitpick. For one, as much as it is awesome to see Fawful taking on the starring role as the villain, a damn good villain at that, I just don't find him as entertaining as I did when he was just a sidekick. I mean, him saying Chortles instead of Fury always irked me a little. I also feel that while the giant battles are awesome, I always have trouble getting the fire breath to work properly, making some of the bosses annoying and the fight against the Fawful Express almost impossible and very infuriating. But while these two are really nitpicks, my big problem immediately stops it from being my favorite Mario and Luigi game. I hate Dark Bowser. Despite for 90% of the game, you have the unique, lovable, insane, and amazingly competent villain Fawful starring as the villain, he is literally cast aside and made minor at the very end so that a generic, bland, plain as white bread dark clone of Bowser can take his place. He's uninteresting, comes pretty much out of nowhere, steals the spotlight from an amazing villain, and his fight isn't even that good, other than the music of course. Just had to throw the negative spin on that, didn't you, Speed? At the end of the day, Bowser's Inside Story is an amazing, well-designed, and lovable game. There are just a few things halting it from being the best Mario RPG in my opinion. Speaking of which... Hell yeah, baby! My favorite Mario RPG and my second favorite Mario game of all time, Superstar Saga. You have no clue how much I adore this game. Despite how much the Mario and Luigi series has grown over the years and the peaks that it has undoubtedly reached, I find that the greatest game is the very first one. Let's start getting into why. In terms of gameplay, I feel that Superstar Saga has both the simplest and most complex gameplay in the series. By this I mean that it's just Mario and Luigi. There are no added additions such as the babies, Bowser, or Dreamy Luigi, it's just the two Mario brothers. But at the same time, there's so much depth these two have in terms of gameplay. Mario and Luigi are treated as individuals, given different traits such as height and duration of jump, time taken to swing their hammers, and even their own elemental abilities. And their individuality is cemented more when, unlike the other games in the Mario and Luigi series, at times the bros have to be separated and fight and explore by themselves. To me, this has a double effect. It makes you love and respect each of the Mario brothers by themselves and value it so much when they fight together. Tying in with that, the bros attacks in combat I feel are the best of the series, mainly as it's using the techniques you use in the overworld to perform attacks, rather than just whipping out a shell or fire flower. For me, it gives the ability to acquire more depth, as they have use in exploration as well as combat, not one or the other. and I love the bros attacks even more when it turns out you are rewarded for learning how to execute the attacks by getting advanced bros attacks, which are variations of the standard attacks to have different effects or deal more damage. For Superstar Saga's presentation, what can I really say? Great visuals with lots of detail, color, vibrancy, and overall just a very impressive visual design, taking into account the limitations of the Game Boy Advance. In terms of soundtrack, it's all good. Plenty of great memorable music that do a great job of establishing mood and are just great to listen to. In fact, Superstar Saga has my favorite normal battle theme from any RPG. Take a listen. But like most Mario spin-offs, one of the great elements are the humor and the characters, and Superstar Saga more than delivers. You have Luigi doing all the funny and adorable things everyone has now come to love, you got Fawful in his first and best appearance in IMHO, Cagletta doing a fantastic job as the villain, and so many other really memorable characters like Popple, Prince Peasley, Bowser, and just a ton more I could list. I would say out of the entire Mario & Luigi series, maybe in the entire Mario franchise as a whole, Superstar Saga has the most even playing field for the heroes and villains. It isn't just the villain dominating everything, holding all the cards throughout the entire adventure. There are plenty of times when the heroes deal their cards and come out on top, not just at the end. There's plenty of toing and froing between the sides, neither one being definitively superior, which is something I find amazingly well developed and well thought out. On top of that, there's tons of twists and turns in the story that really keep you on your toes with the plot. Now, I said that my main fault with Bowser's inside story was the end villain and the final battle with Dark Bowser, but I know many people who put Superstar Saga down because of its final boss, Cackleta's Soul. Yes, it is insanely difficult, so much so that it took me 27 losses before I could actually defeat her, but in my eyes, a ball-bustingly difficult final boss battle that has plenty of build-up with an actual effective villain easily tops a wimpy, non-climactic final battle with a villain they slapped together in the space of 3 minutes. In the end, I love Superstar Saga. It's my favorite Mario & Luigi game, my favorite Mario spin-off, and my second favorite Game Boy Advance game. I'll be getting to my favorite of that category soon, but for now, let's move on. In the last part, I ranked Ocarina of Time, claimed as the best Zelda game, as my least favorite 3D Zelda game. I made it through without too much backlash, so I can be happy with that at the very least. But before I get to any of the other 3D Zelda games, there is one other Zelda game that I like more than Ocarina of Time. This is where the backlash happens. I like Phantom Hourglass more than I like Ocarina of Time. Man, I sound bloody insane just saying that, aren't I? Please, don't get out your pitchforks! I bruise easy. Okay, so many Zelda fans utterly despise the DS Zelda games, predominantly as the entire Zelda formula is adapted to work with using only the DS touchscreen and microphone. But I utterly adore this game. You will pan the controls, but fucking hell, they actually work pretty damn well. I was bloody skeptical too when this game came out, but after playing it for like maybe 10-15 minutes, my fears were put entirely to ease. They're responsive and pretty damn functional, surprisingly even with the sword combat, just drawing lines with the stylus to swing your sword in all the correct directions. I also love this game as it did so much different than what I had experienced. The integration of total touch controls from my perspective allows so many unique puzzles to solve and obstacles to overcome. For example, you can literally draw a path for the boomerang to follow, use the grappling hook as a weapon, proper grappling hook, tightrope and slingshot, and having actual creative use of Bomb Chew, drawing paths for it to follow to activate switches and blow up obstacles. On top of that, every functionality of the DS is used, including the microphone in puzzles and in combat, and the most amazing thing for me, closing the DS and putting it on standby. Yeah! In one part of the game, to solve a puzzle, you literally have to close your DS to transfer a mark from a wall to your C chart. If that's not creative, I don't know what the fuck is. But the thing I love the most in Phantom Hourglass is the cast of characters. Oh my god, I love so many of these characters. The entire cast are lively and full of energy, and overall the characters are just so charming. I think that's the word to describe the whole of Phantom Hourglass. Charming. As you would expect, Link, and of course your Sea Captain Lineback, steal the entire frickin' show. Link is obviously headstrong and confident, but he's also a kid and a cartoon character, so of course he does a lot of silly and amusing things. I think this is my favourite Link moment in the game. That face gets me every time. And of course the new character, the ship captain Lineback. He's selfish, condescending, egotistical, klutzy, self-obsessed, idiotic, cowardly, and oh so goddamn amusing. So many times I've found myself laughing at the stupid things he says and does in the process of trying to look impressive and cool, but he always fails. On top of these great elements, Phantom Hourglass still has a lot to offer. Interesting places to explore, creative and challenging dungeons, plenty of collectibles, a sea that's not as grand as Wind Waker, but still has its moments, a great soundtrack, and even a multiplayer mode. But still, I don't think I can explain in technicality why Phantom Hourglass is better than Ocarina of Time, because it really isn't. The reason I find Phantom Hourglass better is because I have an emotional connection to it that I lack with Ocarina of Time. Just warning you, I might bring y'all down with a sad story, but here we go. Back at the beginning of 2008, I moved across the world from Scotland all the way to Australia. For the month before school started back for the year, I was really lonely. I had some family here and there, but I had no friends and I had no opportunity to make friends at the time. Phantom Hourglass pretty much saved me from slipping into full depression. In the space of that month, I played through Phantom Hourglass completely 3 times, and I loved every second of each playing. I hate to bring up such a sad point, but I feel it's my only way of truly justifying my love for this game. It provided me the escape from reality I needed during a hard time in my life, and I will love it forever for that. Let's move on before I get too emotional. Well everybody, it's time for my most nostalgic game of all time. This is the game I have the fondest memory of from my entire childhood, and remains to this day as my favorite Game Boy Advance game. With that, you guys all know what I'm talking about. Hell yeah, let the music play! I did initially just have my most nostalgic Pokemon game, Ruby, here, but after playing through the others of the Hoenn trilogy, I decided to put all 3 of them on the list: Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. I'm sure the majority of people watching this have played at least one of these magnificent games, and they so are! I know that from Generation 2 they removed Day and Night for this generation only, but so many great things were brought up to the table. 2 big changes were the introduction of natures and abilities. They changed so much of the established formula. Natures making every Pokemon individual, no 2 of the same species being exactly like, in turn making the bonds you share with a Pokemon a lot stronger, and abilities granting additional traits to make each species of Pokemon have their own advantage and traits to love. In terms of the region, Hoenn is absolutely amazing. The region is completely massive, so many varying and memorable areas to explore and find Pokemon, and so rich with life and color. Over the years of having this game, I must have explored Hoenn at the very least 8 or more times, and each time I still find it as magical as my very first playthrough. That's truly a testament to a memorable and fantastic world in a video game. In terms of actual Pokemon battling, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald added a ton more great features. Double battles were introduced, which in turn added a lot more strategy and a lot more thinking being required of both the players as to which team up of Pokemon will result in the best outcome. And for playing with your friends, it allowed you to battle in teams of 2-on-2, heightening the impact of strategy and encouraging teamwork and cooperation to come out on top. For the actual Pokemon, this generation added some of my absolute favourite Pokemon of all time to the series. Just a few off the top of my head are Blaziken, Sceptile, Gardevoir, Manectric, Milotic, Walrein, Flygon, Aggron, and my favourite Pokemon of all time, Metagross. When I talked about Soul Silver, I listed off the team I used in them as a way of exemplifying my experience, so I'll be doing it again. For Ruby, this was my childhood team I had before I lost my copy of it, and I only had 3 Pokemon: Blaziken, Walrein, and Metagross. For Sapphire, I had my team of Searer, Fleetly, Sensari, Iridian, Intrinsac, and Issacal. And for Emerald, I had my team of Gek, Pum, Ruption, Aviator, Lacerate, and Jaws. These are some of the greatest and most memorable teams I've ever raced, and I love them all as a result. On top of that, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald have very solid and driving stories, with Emerald clearly being the most fleshed out, being the sister game of the bunch. It's not too complicated, but the driving force behind it comes from its simplicity and the great characters who act it out. And the story does have its moments of great storytelling, clearly with the villainous team of the games, Team Magma and Team Aqua, and of course one of the most celebrated legendary trios in all Pokemon, the Weather Trio, Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza. With all these already fantastic qualities to make these 3 amazing games, they also have a number of hidden and secret legendary Pokemon that will really test you to get. Pokemon contests to test your Pokemon in ways other than just battle, secret bases which you can create and have your friends come visit, a battle tower for Ruby Sapphire and an entire battle frontier for Emerald, and just a crap ton of other stuff. And I must say, these games have the best soundtrack of the entire Game Boy Advance's library. Not much else needs to be said. People absolutely love these games, and they have so many undeniable reasons to, not just nostalgia. They were innovative, they were memorable, and at the end of the day, they were just a lot of fun. And we'll all get to relive those memories in a few months' time when the remakes are released. Game Freak, you are the fucking bomb! Well, I guess I'll start this entry off by having a little breather. It's not like something unexpected is going to happen. Whoa! Oh, hey, it's you. Hey Hayden, how you going?
I don't know a single gamer on this planet who hasn't heard of
Oh, so I guess you're just going to start and not talk to me. Okay, I get how it is.
All of the Smash games have this incredible feel to them. It's something like, ooh, I could play as Mario. Oh, I could play as Link, Sonic, and I could play as Ness. I could play as Jigglypuff. I guess I could play as Captain Falcon. And why not celebrate the debatedly best game in the series, Super Smash Bros. Brawl! The sheer size of this roster, and so few clones, it makes me so happy, There's a lot of argument that this game isn't as good as the other games because it's not to tournament standard, but I didn't buy this game to get a medal, or a trophy, or a girlfriend. I bought this game to have fun. I mean, look at this thing! Yeah, that's cool. That's riveting. But in all seriousness, there is so much to do. There's the emissary missions, there's the sandbag, there's rotation and tournament. There's like an endless party of Smash. It's like the best. Literally the best. Speaking of the Subspace Emissary, this felt a lot more like an actual adventure mode than the one from the GameCube version. It was so cool to see my favorite characters actually teaming up, and you could see their personalities and things while they fought a common foe. It was like cool, like new and story, and why wouldn't you want that? That's great. It's great. And the final boss fight, oh my gosh, that was epic. The number of times I actually lost on that because it was so hard, but it was so fun and so satisfying when I finished it. It was like, oh my god, the best. Just everything was good. It was good. I liked it. Gosh dang. I could probably nerdgasm over everything in this game for about 10 minutes, but I won't take that much of your time. It's Smash Bros. I mean, what do you need to know? Do I have to explain the simplicity, the wonder, what is Smash, you know? It's Smash Brothers. It's great. Okay, I'll explain it. It's a game where you play as your favorite Nintendo characters and beat up other Nintendo characters. With a unique KO system, ingenious combat style, and fun stages. It's a work of art, a masterpiece of mechanics, a gourmet of gameplay, an excellent entry. Well, except for tripping, but, you know, whatever. We all make mistakes, and, you know, I'm sure we can ignore this slip up. Oh my gosh, I didn't even mention the music. One of the finest selections of remakes and remixes over gaming history's greatest. And you could even pick which ones you want to hear in game. It's so clever. So clever. Oh, and challenges to unlock more things? Countless hours trying to get these. And sandbag mode? Goddamn, that is a time sink, and I love it. Oh my god. And there was online too, and I mean, I don't know much about that. One thing I do know is nothing beats having your friends over on a couch for a classic brawl. It's great. And then there's Smash 4. Oh my god, I'm so hype. I'm actually so hype. Cannot wait. I mean, look at them graphics. And I can't wait to play as Robin and Little Mac and Mega Man. And it's on both consoles and on handheld. I'm not getting on Wii U. I have to get both. And Smash Run is going to be amazing. And I guess there's Amiibo. So that's cool. I can play as me. It's going to be so cool with villages and sounds and music. And oh my god, it's going to be awesome. Pac-Man. And it's going to be so amazing. Oh my god. Anyway, thanks for having me. It's been wonderful.
Oh, now you acknowledge me. You think you can just waltz in here and hijack my video?
I'm sorry, man. I got so excited and...
Sorry. It's okay. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
On to the next entry.
God damn it! Well, after being so rudely interrupted before, it's time to get on to another 3D Zelda game. It's become a huge fan favorite of the series and has every reason to be so. The second ever 3D Zelda game and the direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask.
The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is simply one of the greatest games ever made. Being a sort of direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask follows Link on another adventure, this time looking for Navi, who has gone missing. Silence! After wandering around the forest, he's attacked by an imp known as Skull Kid, who takes his horse and all his belongings. Link chases the imp through the forest and winds up getting transported to another dimension. In this dimension, not only does he find himself in another form, but he also finds out that Skull Kid was possessed by an evil creation known as Majora's Mask, a mask that holds a power of cataclysmical proportions. But soon you find out that this world, known as Termina, is heading towards destruction. An evil moon brought by Skull Kid is on its way to crash against the earth and obliterate all living things. The only way to prevent this is by finding the legendary 4 giants, for they can send the moon back. It's not gonna be easy. You must travel through all the corners of Termina, finding masks that contain incredible powers, and eliminate the evil masks that corrupt the innocent in Link's darkest adventure. As for the game itself, it looks and plays great. Even though it uses the same engine as Ocarina of Time, this game has considerably more detailed and impressive visuals. Unfortunately, the game is shorter than Ocarina of Time, having only 4 big dungeons. But there's just so much to love about this game! The mask feature was a genius addition. Being able to take on the forms of legendary Zelda creatures such as the Deku Scrub, the Goron, and the Sora allowed for fun gameplay mechanics, especially in the Stone Tower Temple. And the several other masks you find have pretty unique uses. Plus, with all the mini dungeons, missions, and side quests all throughout the game, you're guaranteed to never get bored or find yourself in an unsatisfying short game. And lastly, the atmosphere of the game. As far as atmospheres go, Majora's Mask has the darkest and eeriest atmosphere of any Zelda game. Arguably of any Nintendo game. A feeling of death and foreboding evil is all over the place. Some examples? Those masks that allow you to transform into a Deku, Goron, and Sora are mementos of once-alive creatures that left the world with many sorrows and needed to be healed so they could rest in peace. And the Kana Canyon, the last area of the game, revolves entirely around death. Unfortunately, Majora's Mask did not receive as much appreciation upon release. Mostly because of the time limit, you know, having only 3 days to save the world. But guys, the Song of Time exists for a reason! Use it! To make a long story short, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is amazing. Great features, great story, awesome atmosphere, and countless replay value. This is simply a game you must play. Because if you don't play it, the moon will crash against your house! Nah, not really. But seriously, play Majora's Mask.
Hopefully that's the last of the rude interruptions of the series. Ugh, who am I kidding? There's obviously going to be one last interruption before we're through. In due time, I guess. Pokemon is a series that is quite heavily dominated with nostalgia. A lot of fans nowadays are the ones that grew up with the earlier games, and of course, hold them in high regards due to their fond early memories, and I'm kind of in that mind frame as you saw in my Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald entry. So, I guess that means my favorite Pokemon games are decided by nostalgia, right? Wrong! The greatest of all the sister games in my opinion, we have Pokemon Black 2. As much as the home games are nostalgic as hell for me, pure quality and content wins it out for me any day. In the sense of the prior sister games of the Pokemon series, Black 2 doesn't necessarily fall into the criteria. The sister games of Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, and Platinum are at their core revamps and remasterings of the other Pokemon games in the generation, with a few little changes made to them and adapting the story. Black 2 instead is a continuation of the events that happened in the prior Gen 5 games, taking place 2 years after the event with a new cast of characters with old ones thrown in, the story of which revolving around Team Plasma returning with a new goal in mind, conquering the Unova region with sheer force and destruction. This is a huge shake-up of the usual formula that was used for 4 prior generations of the series, but I feel it pays off incredibly. Generation 5 put a huge emphasis on expanding the scale of the game's story, and it seemed only the right decision to expand it rather than just retell it. The story itself has so many high points, and I feel it is a very action-packed and intense storyline. In terms of what's changed from Black and White, a lot has changed in the 2 years. You have brand new areas to explore, not even present in the first 2 games, a total of 3 new gym leaders, so many more Pokemon are available to you, especially Pokemon from prior generations, and just overall there is a lot more content to enjoy. With Pokemon from all generations being available, I ended up taking it upon myself to have at least one Pokemon from each generation in my team, and I had a lot of fun with them. With a team of Arcanine, Vaporeon, Crobat, Flygon, Lucario, and Zoroark, trudging through Unova was a hell of a time. Additionally, the progression through the region is less linear and more expansive for exploration. The visuals and the sound are just as good as you would expect in a Pokemon game. Everything is vibrant and varying in terms of visuals, everything very well animated and detailed. And the music is fantastically composed, and nearly every music track in the game is memorable and great to listen to. In terms of what I personally love about Black 2, I can talk about quite a lot. For one, I think your rival in this game, Hugh, is one of the, if not the greatest rivals in the series. He's a well-written character who has his own personal agenda to fill, and actively helps you throughout the journey, especially in tag battles. The battles against him are what I would call some of the most fairest and balanced challenges in the series. Also, is it just me who adored that every gym had its own remix of the gym music? It gave each of the gyms their own little bit of character and memorability, and some of these mixes were really impressive, especially Elisa's, Clay's, and Drayden's gyms. Another great feature added from my perspective was the memory link system, where you could connect your game to your black or white save file to unlock hidden content, such as backstory behind unexplained changes to the Unova region, catch all of N's released Pokemon, and battle your 2 old rivals from Black and White with your new team. But the greatest feature in all of Black 2 was the PWT. Pretty much, this allowed you to battle every gym leader and later every champion from every region in tournament battles against their fully EV trained teams. Whoever came up with this place is just a fucking genius in my books. You even have remixes of every gym battle and champion theme when you're battling them. It might be defined as fan service, but bloody hell, they know how to pull off fan service really well. In addition, it's a great way of looking back and reminiscing each of the regions as you battle their highest ranked trainers. In the end, this is just a fantastic game. So much content, so much story, so many Pokemon, and just a fantastic round off to the 5th generation of Pokemon. Oh yeah, it also had Colress.
I disagree.
Cool guy right there. Whoa, it's a little surreal. We are literally one entry away from my top 10 favorite games of all time. And this game really is something to have just before the final begins. This game just barely missed out on being in my top 10 games, and has quite a reputation to it. I mean, it literally split the series fanbase in half between lovers and haters. So, I'm just gonna go out and say it. Skyward Sword! Yeah, Skyward Sword is my 11th favorite game, narrowly missing out on my top 10, and stands as my 3rd favorite Zelda game, more so than both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, 2 fan favorites of the series. But I don't care what the common consensus is, because I love Skyward Sword. Sure, the sword fighting is not 1-to-1, I get that, but in a lot of games such as Wii Sports Resort, Nintendo Land, and Red Steel 2, where the sword movements are 1-to-1, the hand operating it is essentially a floating orb, while in Skyward Sword, the hand is actually a full hand connected to a fully modeled character, so the movement is limited to Link's character model. But from my experience with Skyward Sword, it understands its limited sword movement, and in turn focuses on best utilizing what it actually does have, as such as in overworld interactions, overcoming obstacles, and solving puzzles. Also, with the sword only being capable of swinging in certain directions, they can focus on creating enemies that can specifically block certain directions, in turn making the combat more thought out, strategic, and also less complicated. Some say that the areas in Skyward Sword are too linear and do not encourage exploration as strongly as other Zelda games, and while this is something that is true, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. As linear as the areas were, I still enjoyed the hell out of them. All the areas did require a degree of exploration, and clearly there was thought put into these areas, requiring various skills and items from your arsenal to explore. The linear tracks were actually pretty engrossing for me in both gameplay and presentation. I mean, Skyward Sword's presentation is undeniably fantastic. The cell shading art style is an art style I adore in nearly any game that it's used, and it more than shows here. All these environments look and feel amazing. Fire and Woods being so bright, so colorful, and just beautiful, and the Kiwis, Eldin Volcano having a centralized color scheme, which I personally love, plenty of environmental features and great visual design, Lanayru Desert having a fantastic contrast between the desolate yet calming desert and the vibrant and beautiful paradise that lay there in the past, and Skyloft having plenty of character and vibrancy, the variance of colors and decals making this really a location to remember. To go along with the fantastic presentation is a soundtrack to boot. This was the first Zelda game to use fully orchestrated music for its soundtrack, and from my perspective, it more than pays off. It does a fantastic job of creating mood, location, and atmosphere, as well as heightening more engrossing instances with great boss themes and character and emotion themes. Some of my favorite compositions are the Ballad of the Goddess, Farron Woods, Eldin Volcano, Lanayru Desert, Skyloft, Earth Temple, all variations of Garethim's themes, all variations of Fi's theme, Bruce's theme, Dramatic Descent, and Message from the Goddess. On top of that, Skyward Sword has some of my favorite characters in the series. We've got a really good Zelda, one of her greatest 3D Zelda depictions, the assholish and hilarious Groose, Girahim, one of the most unique villains of the Zelda series, and a crap ton of other memorable and great characters. Pretty much, I love Skyward Sword. So many people feel the need to crucify it and slap shit all over it, but really, you can nitpick the shit out of any of the Zelda games. Your Loftwing was overhyped and you don't do much with it other than just getting between the areas. Epona from Ocarina of Time was even more overhyped from my perspective. You had to do a series of events to get her, and only need her for one thing in the game, which, if you have the long shot, you don't even need her for that. Fee is annoying as fuck. Only so much so as Navi and Tattle. And I honestly prefer Fee over those two, mainly due to the fact that I actually felt sad when she left. Silent Realms are stupid and dumb. Yeah, and the Gerudo Fortress and Pirate Hideout were absolutely flawless. Look, I love all the 3D Zelda games, but I can honestly nitpick the crap out of every single one of them. But for me, all the great elements easily outweigh the bad. And the same goes for even Skyward Sword. That's about all I have to say for it. Let's just head on to the top 10.